Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
In October 2022, the Communist Party of China held its 20th National Congress. This is a very important meeting that happens every 5 years. At the end of the meeting, 7 men walked onto a stage. These men are the most powerful leaders in China. The first man to walk out was Xi Jinping. This was his 3rd time as the top leader of the party. This was a very big change. For many years, leaders in China only had 2 terms. This was a rule from the time of Deng Xiaoping. By getting a 3rd term, Xi Jinping broke this old rule. It showed that he has a lot of power. In 2018, China also removed the 2-term limit for the president from its constitution. This was a sign that Xi planned to stay in power for longer. Xi is now the most powerful leader in China since Mao Zedong. He has no strong rivals, and the other leaders on the stage are people he trusts. But his journey to the top was not fast or easy. It is a long story. To understand Xi Jinping, we need to look at the history of the Communist Party. We also need to look at his family. His father was an important early revolutionary. Finally, we must look at Xi's own life. He worked for many years in different parts of China. His experiences and his choices helped him become the leader of China today. 2. A difficult start. To understand Xi Jinping's story, we must look at China's past. The Communist Party took control of the country in 1949, with Mao Zedong as its leader. For decades, Mao was the most powerful person in China. He made all the important decisions. His rule led to big changes. Some policies, like the Great Leap Forward, caused a terrible famine. In 1966, Mao started the Cultural Revolution. This was a period of great chaos and suffering. Institutions were destroyed, and young people called the Red Guards supported Mao. They attacked anyone they believed was an enemy of the party. Many innocent people were punished, and important leaders were removed from their positions. It was a time of great fear across the country. Xi Jinping's father, Xi Jinping, was an important revolutionary hero who helped the Communist Party in its early years. But during the Cultural Revolution, he became a target. The Red Guards publicly denounced him as an enemy of the state. He lost his job, was put in prison, and was humiliated. This was a terrible time for the Xi family. Because his father was in trouble, life became very hard for young Xi Jinping. When he was just a teenager, he was sent away from his home in Beijing. He had to go to a poor, small village called Liangjiahe. For 7 years, he lived in a basic home dug into the side of a hill called a cave dwelling. He did hard physical labor every day. He carried heavy bags of grain and worked in the fields. He was often hungry and had to live with fleas. He once tried to escape back to Beijing, but he was caught and sent to dig ditches as punishment. This difficult life taught him how to survive and work within the party system. After Mao Zedong died in 1976, things started to change. A new leader, Deng Xiaoping, came to power. Deng knew the Cultural Revolution was a grave mistake. He wanted to make sure that one person could never have so much power again. He created a system of collective leadership, where a group of people made decisions together. He also introduced term limits, so a leader could not stay in power forever. Deng opened China's economy to the world. These new rules were designed to make the country more stable and prevent the problems of the past from happening again. 3. A long road to the top. After his difficult early years, Xi Jinping made a smart choice. He did not stay in Beijing to fight for power with other important people. Instead, in the 1980s, he left the capital city. He started a long career working in different parts of China, called provinces. This journey was slow, but it was very important for his future. For over 20 years, he worked in local government and learned how to be a practical leader. His first jobs were in the province of Hebei. There, he worked to make the local economy better. He helped farmers and tried to bring more tourists to the area. Later, he moved to Fujian, a province on the coast. In Fujian, he focused on building new roads and bringing in money for businesses. He worked on improving trade with nearby Taiwan. He also wrote a book about how to help people get out of poverty. He was building a name for himself as a serious and capable worker. Next, he worked in Zhejiang, a rich province with many businesses. He was known for being a strong leader who fought against corruption. During this time, he worked with many people who later became his important allies. He had a final, short job in the big city of Shanghai. He solved a major problem with corruption there. This long path away from Beijing was very clever. It kept him out of the big political fights in the capital. He gained real experience in managing the economy and government. He was quiet and did not show off. He made many friends and allies in the party, the army, and in business. People saw him as a competent and safe choice for a future leader. 4. The new leader of China. In 2007, Xi Jinping moved to the center of power in Beijing. He became a member of the Politburo Standing Committee, China's top leadership group. The next year, he was made vice president. These were clear signs he was chosen to be the next top leader. He managed important projects like the 2008 Beijing Olympics, showing the party trusted him. In 2012, just before he became leader, his main rival was removed from power because of a scandal. This made the path to the top clear for Xi. In November 2012, Xi became the General Secretary of the Communist Party and head of the military. In March 2013, he also became president. He now held the 3 most powerful jobs. In his first speech, he spoke simply about people's hopes for better schools, jobs, and a cleaner environment. He also introduced the Chinese Dream. This was a powerful slogan about making the country strong, proud, and respected in the world again. Soon after taking power, Xi started a huge anti-corruption campaign. He warned that corruption was a serious threat that could destroy the party. He promised to catch both tigers and flies. Tigers were very powerful senior officials, and flies were lower-level officials. The campaign was bigger than anyone expected. Special teams were sent across the country to investigate government offices, companies, and the military. Millions of officials were punished, and some very powerful leaders were arrested. The campaign had a huge impact. Many people in China supported it because they were tired of corrupt officials and saw it as a necessary cleanup. However, critics said Xi also used the campaign to remove his political rivals. People who could challenge his power were put in prison. Whether for cleanup or for politics, the result was the same. The campaign removed his enemies, scared other officials, and greatly strengthened his personal control over the party. Xi also changed how the government made decisions. Past leaders shared power with other members of the Standing Committee. Xi did something different. He created new, powerful leadership groups to control important areas like national security, the economy, and the Internet. He was the chairman of all these groups. This meant the most important decisions now came directly from him. This action centralized power in his own hands, making him China's most powerful leader in decades. 5. Changing China's money. When Xi Jinping became leader, China's economy was growing fast, but it also had problems like too much debt. Xi believed the Communist Party needed to guide the economy in a new direction. Before, leaders said the market should make most of the decisions. Xi changed this. He made it clear that the party would have more control over the country's money. The government's role in the economy became much stronger and more direct. A key part of his plan was to focus on new technology. A special plan, Made in China 2025, aimed to make the country a world leader in areas like robotics, electric cars, and computer chips. The government gave money and support to Chinese companies in these industries. The goal was self-reliance. This meant China would not need to buy important technology from other countries. It wanted to make its own advanced products. While the government helped some companies, it also put new, strict rules on others. This was especially true for big technology companies. The government worried these companies had too much power and were growing in a disorderly way. For example, the famous company Ant Group was about to sell its shares for a very large amount of money, but the government suddenly stopped it. Other new rules limited how much time young people could play video games. These actions sent a clear message: no company was more powerful than the party. Xi also introduced an idea called common prosperity. This plan was to reduce the large gap between rich and poor people. The new rules for big companies were part of this idea. At the same time, the economy faced a serious problem with property. For many years, building and selling homes was a huge part of China's growth. But many companies borrowed too much money. The government created new rules to control this. This caused a crisis. Some companies could not pay their debts, and they could not finish building apartments that people had already paid for. She said that houses are for living in, not for making money. But this was a difficult problem to fix, and it slowed down the economy. 6. More rules for the people. The government's control grew stronger in many areas of people's daily lives. This was not just about the economy. It was about how people lived, what they could read, and what they could say. The internet and the news were watched much more closely. The government told media companies that they must support the party. This meant newspapers and TV stations had to follow the party's ideas. Online, many foreign websites like Wikipedia were blocked. Social media apps were also controlled. It became difficult and risky for people to share opinions that were different from the government's official ideas. The government said these rules were important to keep the country stable and safe. The idea of national security became much bigger and more important. It was not just about protecting the country with its army. The new idea of security included politics, the economy, technology, and even culture. Many new laws were passed to support this. This strong focus on security was seen very clearly in the western region of Xinjiang. After some violent attacks happened, the government started a powerful campaign there. The government said it was fighting extremism and terrorism. A large number of local people, mostly Uyghurs, were sent to centers. The government said these were places for job training. However, other countries and human rights groups criticized the campaign. They were very worried about the people in the centers. The city of Hong Kong also went through big changes. For many years, Hong Kong had more freedoms than other cities in China. This was part of the One Country, Two Systems agreement. But in 2019, huge protests started in the city. People were angry about a new law. In response, the central government in Beijing passed a new national security law for Hong Kong in 2020. This law gave the government in Beijing much more power over the city. After the law was passed, many protest leaders were arrested. Some newspapers and websites that criticized the government had to close. The new rules changed politics in Hong Kong completely. When the COVID-19 pandemic began, China used a very strict policy. It was called Zero COVID. Under this policy, even a few cases of the virus could cause a whole city to be locked down. Millions of people had to stay in their homes for weeks. Everyone was tested for the virus very often. A health app on people's phones showed if they could travel. For nearly 3 years, this policy kept virus numbers very low. But it was very hard for people and bad for the economy. In late 2022, some people in different cities protested against the lockdowns. Soon after, the government made a very sudden change. All the strict Zero COVID rules were stopped. China in the world. China's place in the world changed a lot under Xi Jinping. A big part of this change was making the military much stronger. The army is called the People's Liberation Army, or PLA. Xi put the PLA under his firm control to make sure it was loyal to the party. The army became more modern. It has fewer soldiers now, but it has much better technology. China spent a lot more money on defense. It built new ships, including its first aircraft carriers, and opened its first military base in another country, in Djibouti, in Africa. China's foreign policy also became more assertive. This means it started to act more confidently on the world stage. Some people call this wolf warrior diplomacy because Chinese officials began to speak in a very strong and direct way. They defended China's choices and were not afraid of arguments. China also presented its own ideas for the world. It launched global plans for development and security, showing it wanted to be a new kind of world leader. As China became more powerful, its relationship with the United States became much worse. The two countries are now strategic rivals. They compete in many areas, like trade and technology. There were trade wars, and the U.S. tried to stop China from getting advanced computer chips. Tensions also grew in Asia. China sees Taiwan as part of its country and has increased military pressure on the island. In the South China Sea, China built military bases on small islands, which worried its neighbors. There were also deadly fights between Chinese and Indian soldiers on their border. While its relationships with the U.S. and some neighbors became difficult, China worked to build new friendships. It made its partnership with Russia much closer. The two countries often worked together against the West. China also tried to become a leader for the Global South. This includes many countries in Africa, Asia, and South America. By offering loans and building new roads and ports, China increased its influence. It showed that there was another model for development, different from the American one. 8. The future of China. China's future has big challenges. Xi Jinping has a clear plan for the country, but success is not certain. Many important questions remain about the path ahead. One of the biggest challenges is the economy. For many years, China's economy grew very fast. Now it is slowing down. There is a serious problem in the property market because too many houses were built. At the same time, China is in a technology competition with the United States. The U.S. has made it difficult for China to get important technologies like advanced computer chips. Because of this, China must work hard to develop its own technology to become self-reliant. Another major problem is China's population. The number of people is getting smaller, and the population is getting older. Soon, there will be more old people than young workers. This can create many difficulties for the economy and for taking care of older citizens. The government wants families to have more children, but changing this is very hard. Xi Jinping has very tight control over China. Some people believe this strong leadership is needed to solve the country's problems and keep it stable. Others worry that too much control can create new issues. If people are afraid to share new ideas or criticize policies, it can be difficult for the country to adapt and find the best solutions. The world is watching China closely. Xi's goal is the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. He wants to make China strong, modern, and respected. His story helps us understand the choices China is making today and its plans for tomorrow. The next few decades will show if his vision for China will be successful. What do you think is the biggest challenge for China's future? Leave a comment below.
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.